Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and I'm 82 years old, and as I ride around on my Lectric E-Trike, I'm telling my life story. If you want to get caught up, I think the easiest way is at the end of the video. There's a link to my playlist that has my life story from the beginning. Because right now, I'm in my 30s and it's 1976. So anyway, so we'll get started with today's. And by the way, today's story is going to include some what we would call religious parts of my life. And don't worry, I'm not a preacher. The most I've ever done is teach Sunday school to primary age kids. And so I'm not going to be preaching, but I'm going to tell you how things went in my life. And I'll be just telling a story. I'm not a preacher, I'm a storyteller. And by the way, a good friend of mine, Elder Hugo, he lives in Portugal. He and I got acquainted 5 or 6 years ago on YouTube. We were flying these Bebop drones. They don't even make them anymore. Pardon me. Anyway, and I think he's a Buddhist, and I'm a Christian. And he asked me one time, he says, how come you say God bless, because I always do that. Well, so we got into a discussion about religion, and we both agreed at the end that every man has his own belief. And so that's the way my channel is. That's what I'm intending to just let you know. I'm not preaching, okay? So let's go back to 1976. My wife and I don't think we'd even been married for a year. We were like newlyweds. And we were sitting one Sunday morning after breakfast. And boy, she sure cooks a good breakfast. She still does. And we were drinking our coffee. And I thought, well, let's see if we can find a preacher on the radio. And so we turned radio on, and we found this guy was just getting started, and we listened to his sermon. And at the end, we both had tears in our eyes. I don't remember what he was preaching on, but he sure had a lot of answers to why we were where we were. We had both of us just gone through knocked down and drag out divorces. Our lives were pretty much a mess, and so it was good that we heard that. So then we decided, let's go to church out there next week, wherever this church was. Well, anyway, so we went, and the radio station was right there at the church that we'd been listening to. But anyway, we went in. That week, or that day, they had an evangelist, and his sermon hit our hearts. Just like it was like had the answers to a lot of the reasons we were where we were. So what we did that day was we joined the church, but also we just turned our lives over to the Lord to let him kind of straighten things out for us. And he did. But anyway, okay, so that's enough preaching. So we started at that church, and it wasn't long until everybody realized that I had a commercial license for broadcasting, and they needed people to run the radio station. Volunteers, because the people in the church volunteered to run the radio, and they started at 6 in the morning, and it went till midnight. And we got a car here, and so let's see, we can't go that way. We don't want to go that way. So let's go this way. So they explained to me all the stuff and everything, and that they needed, especially around dinner time, when the wife is cooking dinner for the kids and everything, and the husband's just getting home from work, and and of course the station had to go off the air when there wasn't an operator, and so they said, that we could use some help. So what I did was I decided that I would run the station during the dinner hour, like from whenever I got, see, I was still teaching at the high school. So whenever I got off work at the high school, I would come on over to the station and run the station until like 6 or 7, until somebody showed up to run it in the evening. And so I did that, and I did that for quite a while. So then finally the end of the year came and school got out, and I had a lot more time to help and everything. And of course I loved the radio station because I was into electronics, heavily into electronics. And so I did what I could, but I wasn't the chief engineer. The chief engineer was a super nice guy, smart guy. He had to get that station going, he had taken whatever he could find and put it together to make a broadcast station. And so I mean, I was impressed with what he did, but he didn't keep things neat or anything. So it ran, but it was kind of in a mess. So I had a little more time to do a little bit of cleaning up and stuff, but it wasn't my job because I wasn't a chief engineer. So summer came, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table of our house having a peanut butter sandwich. I'll never forget it. And the pastor called and wanted to know if I could come up to the church because the FCC was inspecting the station. That's not good news. And so I said, sure. So I went up there, and now remember I say he just left a mess. Well, they had the transmitter that they had was a little 100 watt, about the size of a small chest of drawers. It was in the corner, and there was wires all over the floor. The wire that went from the transmitter to the tower was he didn't have a connector for it, so he just twisted wires together to hook it up to the transmitter. You don't do that, but that's what he did. So anyway, then the FCC, by the end of the day, and by the way, when they were walking around in the transmitter room looking at things, one of them kicked the wire and it took us off the air. And so the lady that was running the station, she came up to me and she says, we're getting a bunch of calls from people because we're off the air. And I said, don't worry about it. And because anyway, so they when they were all through, the station got 9 violations. And by the way, one of the violations, I won't try to explain it, but he was over modulating 200 and more percent, and that's definitely against the rules. So they pointed out that they could have shut us down that particular day, but they didn't. And they told the pastor, they said, if you can get this fixed in 45 days, we'll come back and see how you're doing. And if you're done right, if you fixed it, you can stay on the air. So when they left, the pastor looked at me and says, can you fix this? And of course, it's down my alley. I said, sure, I'd love to. And so I started working on it and fixing it and doing different things to clean it up and get it going, and all the things that were wrong, I worked on those and fixed those. And 45 days later, a friend of mine, anyway, 45 days later, they showed up, they gave us an inspection, and the only thing that they gave us a little warning, because you're supposed, back then, everything was run by tubes, and so every 2 hours you had to take a look at the meters on the transmitter and make sure that everything was working right. I've explained that in previous videos. So so here's a little friendly dog looking at me. Yeah, I see ya. Yeah, you're a good dog. Yeah, you need to go home. So anyway, there he goes. So somebody had gone 2 minutes over the 2-hour limit, and so they gave us, they didn't give us a violation, they just gave us a warning that was a no-no. So anyway, So the station was okay, and then everybody was happy. So I just continued working on things. Well, after the FCC guys left, the pastor said, I want you to be chief engineer for this station. And I said, well, I can, but I don't want to be like barge in on the other guy. And he said, the other guy couldn't show up for the FCC, so you're the chief engineer. And so that's how I got that position. Okay, but I was still teaching at the high school. So anyway, I kept working on everything, and eventually they got a 1,000 watt transmitter, big transmitter, about the size of a phone booth. If you've ever seen a phone booth, nowadays they're hard to find, but about the size of a phone booth, and it transmitted at 1,000 watts, and so their power went way up, and they got lots more listeners, and it was all working out good. I remember one day I was walking down the hallway, and the church secretary came up to me and said, you're doing really well. We had $90 in donations last month. And they'd never gotten that much in donations. So everything was going great. And school came up in the fall, and I had to go back to just, helping out in the evening. And by the way, when the station finally got more power and more organized, and the floor was clean and everything was like it was supposed to be, more people volunteered to run the station. So as it turned out, everything kept getting better and better. So I taught school, and then the pastor came up to me sometime during that school year, and he said, have you ever thought about coming to work here full time? And I thought, no, I haven't, but I gave it some thought. So he said, well, I would like you to do that. And so that's what I did. When the school got out that year, I was through teaching at the public school, and went to work at the church. Now, that meant that I had to get up in the morning, which I love to do. I like to get up early. I had to get up early in the morning and put the station on the air. And one thing that I did was I changed the rules so it come on at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. And that way we beat a lot of the other commercial stations, because they were all coming on at 6 o'clock. So I did that, and then of course I started running the radio in the morning. And we also then, we got a Associated Press teletype. I don't know if you know what that is, but in the old days, you'd hear this teletype going in the background when they do the news. And the news came over, it was like on a typewriter. So you had this printout from like off of a typewriter. And then you would read the news, and also the forecast came over, all that kind of stuff. Well, I lost an operator one day, and she was fun. She was a lot of fun to tease, and she teased, and so one winter day, I thought, yeah, I wasn't even thinking about who I was going to do this to, but I kept one of the weather forecasts that it says it's going to be 20 degrees and snow possible and all that stuff. So I held on to that until summertime, when it was like 90 degrees outside. And when this young lady was supposed to come in, then I replaced the current forecast with the forecast of the winter forecast. I replaced that, and so I went down to my office so I could listen to her when it came time for the weather break. She got on there and she said, well, the weather for today, it's going to be a possibility of snow and 20 degrees. And she realized somebody had played a trick on her. So I'm sitting in my office, and I hear this door slam, and so I get up and I go out, and nobody's in the studio. And she got mad and walked out, which was okay because that's how it was. So anyway, I lost an operator that day, and had a lot of other fun experiences that I'll be talking about related to my job at the radio station. But I think I'm running out of time now, so I got to find a way to get out of this maze that I'm in. And I want to thank you for watching my videos, and God bless.